Hello friends and welcome back to another Piano Lessons with Joel. Make sure you have your Alfred All-In-One book out. Today we're going to start with Oh When the Saints Go Marching In. We'll be on page 45 and page 47 for that. We'll go ahead and do our playing through both of them in the left hand and in the right hand. And then we'll get to page 48 and 49. We'll talk about C chords, F chords, G7 chords. I'll come back up here to the board for just a minute and go over a little bit about how we write those chord symbols when we're notating them. All right, but let's start right now. In the book, page 45, I'm going to get to the piano and we'll get started. Now, part of our homework in getting ready for When the Saints Go Marching In was to play on page 45. The melody is in the right hand, and then instead of taking the repeat on page 45, we turn the page and we go to page 47, where the left hand takes over the melody. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to start on page 45, and then I'll go to page 47 to play the second time through with the left hand. When you need to turn the page, we haven't done much turning pages while playing in here. Notice how I have this little bend down there at the bottom of my page. I forget what they call them, little pig ears or something like that. So make your page easily accessible for a turn, and that way you don't have to fumble to try to get the paper. It's right there ready for you to turn over. All right, get your right hand on C position with our thumb on C, third finger on E, fourth finger on the F, and then our left hand is in C position with the C, E, and G ready to go down here. Look ahead. We have some tied notes. We go to the G7 chord and we go to the F chord. Okay, so let's take it at about one, bum, bum, okay? And again, we have a pickup measure here, so we begin on beat number 2. So I would give you 3, 4, 1. Okay, that's how we start. Now, when we turn the page at the bottom, let me go over this before we start. We come down here at the very last measure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Let me do that again. That is a quick page turn if I don't say so myself. All right, so I'm at the very last measure down here. Last 2 measures, sorry. 2, 3, turn the page. All right, you get the idea, right? Let's do it. Okay, we're back into position up here. Let's start. Right hand begins. 2, 3, 4, 1. Oh, when 2, 3, 4, 1. 2, 3, 4, 1. G7. That was a big piece of music. How did you do? The page turn is kind of crazy. I know that. So you really have to think ahead so that you stay in time. So that's something you have to practice. We do have to practice turning those pages when we're playing piano music. those page turns do not always come at a convenient spot. So we actually have to practice turning the page. So go back and take that a little bit slower if you need to, and then practice those spots, and then go back in the video and play again with me. Slow it down if you need to. At this point, though, we're going to move on to page 48 and 49, and we'll go ahead and go over the written part, and then we'll be done today with this video. Okay. Let me get back to the board here, and I'll just go over a little bit of writing the chord symbol, especially the G7, so you have an idea of where to put that 7 when you write the chord. On the board, I have written out the notes for the chords, both for the left-hand part and the right-hand part. Right here, we're in the bass clef, so this is the bottom of page 48. And then over here, this is the right-hand treble clef part, so this is the chords on page 49. And let's see, let me do the right hand first, and then I'll do the left hand. When we write in the C chord, it's just a simple letter C, right? C. When we get over here to the F chord, and again, our F chord is actually F, A, C, but we've kept that C in the bottom. We call this an inversion. The C is in the bottom. It makes it easier, and it sounds a little bit more fluent if you keep the C in the bottom rather than jumping that C way up to the top. So we keep that in the bottom, makes it nice and fluid there. So that's an F. All right, now when we get over to our G7 chord, remember this G7 chord is actually G, B, D, and the F is way up there. But we have the F in the middle here, which is fine. We've talked about that a little bit, and we'll get more into that a little bit later. But when we write the G7 chord, we have G, and then typically we put the 7 just above it like that. I ran out of space there, but let me write it again down here. So G and 7. That's typically where that letter, or I'm sorry, where that number goes. And you see when they print it in the book, they often make that 7 just a little bit smaller, and it's a little bit up to the right there, but that's typically the traditional way we write these chords. So G and then 7's up there. All right, and then over here we're back to the C. Down here, I'm going to put these down below because I don't have room up top here like we have in the book. So this is our C. This is the F. And our G7 chord. And back to C. So just a little nuance in as far as writing our chord symbols there. Let's go ahead to page 48 and 49. We'll go ahead and fill in all our written homework that we needed to take care of. In addition to writing in the chord symbols here, we are supposed to have been practicing these chord progressions as well. So let's go ahead and write them in, or check them, and then we'll go back and practice them. So I'll play them as we rewrite them in. So our first one under number 3 there is the C chord. Okay, C, E, and G, that's a C chord. Next one is F. And then we go back to C, to F, back to C, and now we have our G7 chord, and back to C. So all the chords that I put on the board are exactly what we have here in the book. So if you wanted to go back and just double check to make sure you have all of them correct, that is fantastic. At this point, let's go ahead and play number 3. All right, so get your left hand in position. We have our pinky, our third finger on E, and our thumb is on G. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, ready, and go. C chord. F. Back to C. F. Back to C. Now to the G7. 2, 3. Let's do it again. C, F, C, G7, G7, C, 2, 3. All right, well, go back and practice that. Take it a little bit slower. Let's move on to I'm going to lay my burden down. This piece begins with an incomplete measure of only 3 counts. Again, we have a pickup counts there. The missing count is found in the last measure, just like when the Saints Go Marching In. Let's write in the chord symbols, and then we'll go back and play it. Our first chord symbol that we need to write in is C. The next one on the word deep is F, and that's beat number 3 in this the first full measure, and then we're back to a C. All right, at the end of that line, we have an F chord. The very first chord of the second line is a C chord, and then we go to the second measure, we have that G7, and then the last 3 chords are C, F, and then C. All right, let's play this one. It starts out just like the Saints, except for then we go to a chord. Okay, here we go. 3, 4, 1. 1, 2. 1, 3, 2. Now here we go, G7 chord. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 2. Let's repeat. 2. 2. 2. G7. 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, watch the tied G7 chord. Okay, that gets a total of 5 counts there. So the whole note, 4 beats, plus 1 before you move on. So make sure you're counting that as you go. All right, continue practicing that. Let's move on to page 49. 1. Practice changing from the C chord to the F chord. The common tone is C, which is played by your thumb in both chords. So that's a little bit of what we talked about up there. So our common tone, we keep the C here. Instead of jumping way up there, which the C would be in the top there for the F chord, we're going to keep that C in the bottom there, so it doesn't need to go anywhere, and we just move our 3rd and 5th finger up. Write the chord symbols C, F, and G7 in the boxes. And then play and count. Okay, so our first chord here is C. The second chord, F. Next chord is C. Then we go to F. Then we're at C again. Now we go to G7. And now we're at C. And we're going to hold that for 6 counts. It's tied. We're in 3/4. All these notes are dotted half notes. They all get 3 beats apiece. And then the very last 2 chords are tied together. So we get a total of 6 counts there. Let's play number 4, starting on the C chord. So 1, 3, 5. And count with me. 1, 2, go. C, 2, F, 2, C, 2, F, 2, C. Now to the G7. And back to the C chord. 2, 3, 1. Repeat. Now. C, F, 3. F. C. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. Tell me how you're doing in the comments. Again, slow these down if you need to. Let's move down to waltzing chords. Write the chord symbols in the boxes, play and count, play, saying the chord name each time the chord changes. All right, so let's go over the chords first, and then we'll go back and do some playing. So the first measure, we have C chords in both hands. And then the next measure, measure 2, we have F. So write F in the box. Next measure, we're back to C. Then we're back to F. Okay, now go to the second system. We're at C. Now the second measure is G7 and back to C. How about we do together what I just did, and that is play the chords. Let's count the 3 for each one. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay? All right, let's do it together. Get both hands in position. C chord, 5, 3, 1 in the left hand, 1, 3, 5 in the right hand. 1, ready, go. C chord. Look ahead to the F chord. Back to C. F. C. G7. And C. That's a nice technique of practicing where you're just moving everything at the same time and not concerning yourself as much with the rhythm. We are still counting to 3, but we're just kind of placing our chords there. And now we will go back and play it as written. So we have those chords under our hands now. Let's go ahead and put it all together. All right, so the left hand starts. Keep it nice and slow. 1, ready, go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Repeat. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Not too difficult there, I hope, at this point, since we've kind of done the left hand and the right hand thing going on first, and then we just put the left hand and the right hand together. Folks, that is our homework check for today. We started out playing "Oh, When the Saints Go Marching In" with the melody in our right hand. Then we practiced turning the page, which is a big deal when you're playing the piano. We turned the page to page 47, and we had the melody of "When the Saints Go Marching In the left hand. So go back and practice in that fashion. Go ahead and work on turning the page, because that is a big deal. Then we, on page 48 and 49, we wrote in all of the chord names, whether it was a C, an F, or a G7 chord. We have them all written in. I gave you just a little idea of where the 7, for the most part, where the 7 needs to go when we write in the 7 for the G7 chord. So that's a little nuance. Just take time to get it right about where it's supposed to be. And then we worked on the bottom of page 48, bottom of page 49. Go back and practice all of that again to make sure everything is as smooth and legato as possible when you're playing. That might mean slowing it way down. Bring it down. Don't worry about playing it fast. You will learn all your pieces much faster by practicing much slower. The next lesson that we have, we will continue on page 50 with G position, which is fantastic because now we're moving from the key of C to where G will now be our home base. And we need to move our hands around to learn G position. And then after that, we'll get to 52, page 52. All right, so until I see you again, look at page 50, 51. Go back and do all the practicing from our homework check, and I will see you in our next full lesson in our next video. Until then, thank you for joining me on Piano Lessons with Joel. Happy practicing. Take care.